first research question is, what is the degree of affective or emotional response employers have towards the military? Here's what we found. Employers are speaking very positively about our service personnel. We were extremely pleased. Here are 3 highlights. Most employers are very positive in their views about military service personnel. 93% had very, very favorable opinions across all industries. Employer perceptions of military have improved since 9/11. So 85% have improved their opinion since 9/11. Many employers believe that military personnel deserve some leniency in the hiring process. 75% responded favorably to those items. Here's something interesting, and yay for STEM. The most favorable employees were those in the manufacturing industry. The least favorable employers were in the accommodation and food industry. The second question was, to what degree are employers concerned about hiring military personnel? And we found that employers are positive, but some have concerns. And we're going to hear some things from yesterday. Most employers are very positive about hiring the military personnel as long as they have the right knowledge and skills. So while there's some leniency, they want them to have the knowledge and skills. 92% of employers were favorable across industries. Many employers are positive about hiring reserve and guard members. We heard yesterday that there are some employers very concerned about that because of the time taken off, but we found 74% were favorable. Employers are relatively less favorable about hiring military personnel when considering war-related psychological disorders. So the fewest concerns, manufacturing industry. No concerns at all. Very high favorability. Most concerns were in arts, entertainment, recreation, and retail industries.
My job at Rockwell Collins is senior sourcing specialist, and I work in the talent acquisition department. Now, sourcing specialist, recruiter, they're a little bit different. As a sourcing specialist, it's my job to go find new places to find new employees. And that can be companies, it can be the military, it can be new schools to go to, whatever sources we can find, and how to reach them, which may be websites, organizations, affiliations, that sort of thing. We're probably in the biggest push actively to hire veterans that this country has seen since World War II. I can tell you, as a Vietnam veteran with service-connected disabilities, it's a wonderful thing to see. It really is. But how do we do that? And we were talking last night about the problem that we see today is now everybody's on the bandwagon. And so consequently, there's 9,000 different organizations saying, here, help us to help you hire veterans. So as an employer, it kind of gets jumbled up. One of my jobs is to sell my leadership on what's the best way for us to go do this. Now, I will admit, with a 75-year history of being a contractor for the U.S. government, we're kind of new on actively pushing to hire veterans. So we just started our Veterans Employee Network, which was started for a couple of reasons. One, to help use the network that we have internally of veterans to go out and find people and recruit good people out of the military, and admittedly to use that network to make contacts within the industry and within their services to help us get business, and to help the families of Guard and reservists who may be deployed. Iowa just had the largest deployment since World War II, 3,000 people. Of those 3,000, only 68 were our employees, but we don't have any way of knowing how many of our employees had family members that were deployed. So one of the goals of the Veterans Employee Network at Rockwell Collins is to help those family members get information, who do they contact for pay and benefits, that sort of thing. Now, on veterans hiring, there's a couple of companies I want to mention because I think they've got the right idea. Northrop Grumman started the program a couple of years ago called Operation Impact. And when I say that they actively pursue hiring veterans, in all honesty, that's an understatement. They actually set a goal of how many disabled veterans they're going to hire each year. they have a veteran service officer on staff, and that person's job is to help those veterans make the transition. In most companies, I'm sure in most of the schools that you folks work for, you probably have somebody on your staff in environmental health and services or something like that, that will come in and help people set up their cubicle or their office so it's ergonomically viable to create a good work environment. This person does the same thing
actually
for these
helps these veterans that they hire, these disabled veterans, with whatever changes they need to make in their work environment to make them more successful. Now, that's probably the best example
that we have is, yes, we need to get these young men and women in school and help them get degrees. But we also need to educate the employers on the value of a veteran. And every employer will tell you, yes, that, you know, they show up on time, they're hardworking, they're team players. That's a small portion of it. That's a very small portion of what the veteran brings to the table. In my example, or in my case for Rockwell Collins, hell, most of the vets that we hire, or most of the vets we're going after, have used our products. They have field knowledge of how our products work. Now, we go nuts on the commercial side to hire a commercial pilot to be an engineer because he's actually used the product. Why are we not taking that same approach with young men and women getting out of the military? That's the problem that most companies face. I think a lot of companies want to do it. They don't know how. Ted pointed out some very interesting statistics yesterday regarding the number of people today that actually know somebody who served in the military. It's dropped drastically from when I was a kid. I went back to my hotel room last night, thinking on the day, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that I'm the old guy that used to come over and talk about World War II with my dad. And I'm thinking, it's exactly the same thing, because they were talking about the same thing, you know, how these guys find jobs. How do we educate companies on the true value over and above the stuff you see in the recruiting posters? These people bring a lot to the table. And once they have a degree, the value just increases at an exponential rate. So I think, yes, we want to get these young men and women in these programs. But at the same time, on a parallel course, we need to develop another swim lane, which essentially is how do now we get senior leaders from the military, the schools, and the employer base together on, we've got these kids in these degree programs. What happens when they graduate? We can work with the kids on degree programs. Part of our Veterans Network is to set up mentor relationships with kids that we meet through our university relations efforts on campuses that are majoring in engineering. They're in those first 2 years of school where it's nothing but lectures and really boring stuff, and you don't see that in the future, yes, you're going to be designing airplanes. So it's nice to have someone that you can call and say, you know, I'm thinking about dropping out. And that person can say, you know, I went through the same thing, and help them with it. It's a phone a friend. That's exactly what it is. The mentor relationships, I think, will do more from the employer side for these young men and women to help them get through college, and then get them in intern co-op programs that will lead to careers once they graduate.